Are you guys getting audio? But can you hear this music? I have music playing in the background. Yeah, I didn't think the music was going through. I'm just playing like lo-fi hip hop beats over here. Um, Maybe that's okay. Maybe it's too low. That's weird. It's being a little weird. Sorry. Seems like people are showing up for this. That's gonna be weird for me. Hello. Welcome. Can you hear like a tiny bit of music? It seems really it's really super low. I might be too loud too. Yeah, it might just be coming in from the mic. I was trying to see if I could hear it on my other computer. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter if you can't hear it. It'll just keep me calm. You can just listen to my stupid voice. Hello, I am Bryan Lee O'Malley, your friend, so to speak. And I don't know. I've been streaming games for the last couple weeks. If for those of you who weren't there for any of that, I was gonna stream Hades this week, but kind of like my shoulder hurts, and then yesterday, my cat, one of my 27 cats, like mauled me. I was lying on the bed, and the cat was like lying on top of me, and then the dog like made a noise under the bed, and the cat got really scared and like took off using my whole like center as a like a platform. So yeah, I'm all scratched up. I'm a little uncomfortable. And then there's the shoulder. So I was just like, I think I'm gonna do something a little more chill than trying a new difficult game. So yeah, I'm trying to set up some stuff. Let's see if this works. It's too bad you can't hear the music. It's pretty chill. How you guys doing? We're gonna look at Scott Pilgrim Volume 2 today because so like last summer on the anniversary of Scott Pilgrim Volume 1, I did a live Instagram thing where I kind of flipped through it. You can find that on Instagram if you want. But I thought I'd try a Twitch version of the same thing. It's gonna be like all digital, so I just like copied a bunch of files over. Let me try turning this music up and see if you can hear it. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why it's super quiet. I'm just not going to worry about it. It's just off YouTube. I've been using music off YouTube for my game streams, but oh well. Yeah, and my headphones are like pass-throughs, so you can probably hear a bit of that in there. Okay, what do I got here? I don't know where to begin. I'm not in a library. I'm in my home studio. Um, I thought I'd compare this because I redrew this for the second edition of the books. Where did I put it? Sorry, this is gonna take me. This is like your substitute teacher doing AV. I don't know how things work. I just got this PC, so I'm just like really very clueless about how these things work. So this was the original first couple pages. I don't have I should have grabbed the actual black and white book, but this book came out in 2005, so I would have been working on it like December 2004 into like April of 2005. I did these books pretty quick. There are no extras in the black and white version. It's not, well, actually that's not true. There is a few in the later volumes. But the color hardbacks have all the good stuff. Anyway, so I redid this for the later edition. Oh shit. How do I do this? Wow. Welcome to my PowerPoint, you guys. I Am Steve is rating with a Party of 5. Party of 5. That was a TV show in the 90s. So yeah, this was the version that I sent to Nathan later. I redrew Ramona. Maybe we can like flip back and forth between them. You can see like I totally redrew Ramona, and I kind of just fixed up the background figures a little bit. I probably messed with the rain a tiny bit. But like this was like a really, really early unattractive drawing of Ramona, so I just thought I would make her cuter. And then the final is this one. So the file I could find for the book was a proof that has all these border things around it. But that, that's interesting. I don't want you to actually like read the book on my Twitch, but we're just going to flip through it. Yeah, so that was with the colors from Nathan Fairbairn. And it turned out pretty cute. But let's look at this one first. I was thinking we could look at this one, the original edition, and then compare it to the color edition, and also maybe we could watch the little animation that they did of this scene. There's the title spread. This was inspired by the title card from Bonk's Adventure, which is an old video game. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Some of you have, some of you haven't. Yeah, certainly color adds more character to it. It was just not economically feasible at the time. Like, these were very small, independent comics. We probably printed like between 1,000 and 2,000 copies, and they were very cheap. Like they were $12 or something like that, US, and I wanted to keep them affordable. So if it had been color, like, it would have bankrupted us, and we never would have gotten past volume 1. I guess I should actually look up the Bonk's Adventure title, and we can compare that too. Hang on, Googling Bonk's Adventure title screen. Oh, I'm binging. Sorry, not Googling. Thanks, PC. I almost got it. There's Bonk's Adventure. Yeah, so it was a game for the TurboGrafx 16, and as a kid, I didn't have a TurboGrafx 16. Like, that was like something only rich kids had. So, I was always envious of Bonk's Adventure. It has a really cool, it has really good music. It's not really ultimately all that fun. Like, I've played it since then. Yeah, there's a whole series of these games. Like, this was like a very hot character, like kind of before Sonic the Hedgehog came out, and Sonic kind of changed everything. So yeah, so I don't know. I just thought, oh, that's cute. Like he's in the O. I could do that with the C, and it turned out it was all right. That's what we're gonna say about every single page. We're gonna go through page by page and be like, you know what, that one's fine. This is like an early PDF of the book, which didn't have all this stuff in it. So yeah, you're looking at like vintage, never before seen PDF files, antiques. So the first scene in the book is a flashback to high school, and I don't know why do we think I did that? I wanted to kind of play with people's expectations already. Like I wanted to kind of mess with the format a little bit, even though this is already only book 2, and like at this point 500 people have ever seen the first book. But you got to dream big. So I kind of started to expand the world, like Godfather 2 style, go into a big flashback. And Scott goes to high school. He moves to a new town, and he makes some new friends, and one of them ends up being Kim Pine. So like, we're like 10 pages in, and like, oh wait, this is why we're seeing this. They're partners in class or something. He draws her a sheep. I always like the sheep scene. How do I go about planning the panels? That's a good question. I actually just scanned these this very morning, or 20, 30 minutes ago. Let me see. I scanned some thumbnails. I mean, I'm assuming they've never really been seen anywhere. But yeah, so you can see like this is like the early roughs of what would happen in the book. So before this stage, there is a script, and I meant to copy the script over here, and I forgot. But just imagine, oops, what happened? Imagine for yourself a script that's, mostly just dialogue. And then also on the script, I do like little, like the panel layouts. I'll just do like a blank panel layout, but I'll just kind of think to myself, like, where does the dialogue go? What is going to be the layout? So I'll just like be drawing these lines. Oh yeah, you guys can see my cursor. So yeah, on the side of the script, you'll see like a bunch of little tiny diagrams like that. I wish you guys could hear this music. It's giving it a very like Persona vibe. Mm-hmm. Was any of this inspired by the 1979 music video from Smashing Pumpkins? No. Not specifically. I mean, but that video was a pretty accurate description of like being a teen at the time, I think. And that I was just going on like my high school memories and stuff. Oh, there's the opening spread. I didn't realize that was on here. I tried to scan these really high resolution so we could see all the details. This location was just drawn from memory, but it's a Toronto Transit stop. I think it's called Christie. I think the stop's Christie. And it's a big park called the Christie Pits. And I remember waiting in the rain at this bus stop before, so I drew it. Anyway, let's flip over to that color version and compare. And there's the actually I wish we had done a little more shading on the Scott bolder letters just to make it look more like Bonk, but it's pretty good. The two schools are called St. Joel's and Benvie Tech, and they're named after the two lead guys in this band called Thrush Hermit that I was super into in high school. Canadian band. They are on Spotify. Band with two lead singers. In this version, we changed the lettering. You can see like this big title. I just wanted to keep it more consistent in the color editions. They were all totally different in the black and white. Like each book had its own kind of graphic design identity. Yeah, the coloring rules. This is colored by Nathan Fairbairn. But actually, now that I think of it, we should look at the video before we do this. The animation, Scott Pilgrim versus the animation. So this was done on Adult Swim in 2010. Like when the movie was coming out, it was kind of like a promotional thing. Sorry, let me close that. Let's go back. Okay. Closing windows. I don't know if this will get DMCA'd. Can you guys hear this? Ooh, they use the R word. So you guys can't hear anything? I don't know why that's happening today. Streaming audio is difficult. Who knew? Well, I'll just narrate it then. I'll commentary it. I should turn my sound off too. Michael Cera did the voice of Scott, and we got Mae Whitman to do the voice of Lisa because Mae Whitman is this really accomplished voice actress. She was Katara in Avatar, among many other things. Yeah, the animation was done by Titmouse. It was literally just based on the comic, as far as I know. I mean, clearly it looks just like the comic. It has almost all the same dialogue. So it's the same stuff, the same scene from the comics. I think a few scenes are cut. So this whole flashback is kind of like a big River City Ransom, or it builds up to a big River City Ransom homage. River City Ransom was one of my favorite Nintendo games. It was about high school students fighting each other across town. And then we have this like bad guy who's kind of like a proto Gideon. And then we kind of like don't find out why that is until towards the end of the series. Yeah, River City Ransom is on the Nintendo Switch online NES thing. So you can play it to this day. It's a lot like the Scott Pilgrim game. But yeah, so this whole sequence in the book was like it's like a very quick, like almost like a recap of the first book, but with different events. But it's like has the same structure. Like it's all very normal, and then it just like kind of goes crazy for like 2 seconds at the end. So yeah, sorry, I don't know why you can't hear the audio. That's a little disappointing. Oh man, good spot to pause. Did I get worried about using the name Sonic and Knuckles? I didn't get worried about that one specifically because those are just words. I don't know. They probably have it trademarked, but I mean, so I wasn't super worried about anything because it was like a tiny black and white comic, and I only thought like 600 people would ever see it. So I kind of just did whatever I wanted, and that's not the smartest move. I think I was lucky that like the movie did happen, and I don't know. I feel like that helped smooth over any problems that might have cropped up in that regard. Yeah, so that was all based on this little stretch of comics, like 20, maybe like 30 something pages. The Benvitek boys came and kidnapped Kim. It's all this like elaborate power fantasy, basically. And he has to go fight this like version of Gideon. And I did this like kind of Frank Miller-esque rain battle silhouette thing. And then, Scott kisses Kim. And there's this like very quick fractured like flashback montage. What do we see in here? Oh, this is very low resolution. That's the Veruca Salt poster, and no doubt it's just like, oops, what happened? I just downloaded this PDF reader, so I don't really know how it works. Yeah, at the end they start a band, and and it's all kind of like based on my high school. Like I don't know, my little sister was like kind of like the rock star of our high school, and I like learned to play guitar to play backup for her. And I was like 3 years older, but that's how I started playing guitar was with my little sister. So that's kind of like, and it was called Lunchapalooza at our school. So they would have these like little concerts during lunch hour because we had a cafeteria with like a stage, cafetorium as they called it. And then everyone always asks about this car panel, but it's like, oh god damn it! Every time I touch this thing, it just like scrolls away. Sorry for my PowerPoint skills. This was like a specific homage to the movie Say Anything, where it has like this exact scene where they kind of like lose their virginity in the back of a car, and there's like a song playing. So it also was intended to kind of like add to the unreality of the whole thing. Like Scott is kind of mixing up his memories of River City Ransom and of Say Anything all into this thing. So you just don't really know, like, is it something he really remembers, or does he just remember like a version of it that he saw in a movie? Is this how he kind of like processes his life? Anyway, and then this, like, people pointed out later that this is a lot like it's going to end up being a lot like Final Fantasy VII. He like remembers it one way, and then later we have a different version of the same panel with a different person there. So that was a little bit of an unconscious Final Fantasy homage. I just love Final Fantasy so much; it's like in my soul. And then like I was really happy with how Ramona looked here. And this is obviously after I drew that first opening page. So I'm really glad I got to redraw her. She looked so much cuter on these pages. And then we get to Wallace. So like Wallace was really kind of the instant breakout character of the first book. So I always wanted to include a lot of Wallace. Wallace is based on my old roommate, Chris. And on this newspaper, you start to see like Lucas Lee. I would always draw these dumb ads on things like this one says, "Not enough people are buying beer." I guess that's always the case. I'm going to flip over to color. So I think the color for this was a little bit like, so the animation had already been done. So I told Nathan to look at the animation, and I think he kind of just built off of that. And like I actually gave color notes to the animators because it was a little off at first, but it was before there was a color edition. Hey guys, yeah, there will be a video on demand or VOD that you can watch for the next 2 weeks at any time. You just click on the video panel or videos panel. And I haven't done volume 1. Volume 1 was done on Instagram, so we're just starting with volume 2. This like feels so different than playing a game on Twitch. It's really stressful. I feel like I'm putting on a show. So thanks for coming to my show. I want that music back. Now I can't find it anymore. Oh, I lost what I was doing. Okay. Yeah, everything looks awesome in color. Nathan is like a really, really prolific comic book colorer. He does a lot of like Batman comics and stuff. So he just like has a really deep toolkit. So he makes all these scenes just like really rad. And we've like been pushing a lot for like warm and cool contrast, like in this panel right here, where it's just like it really pops. Oh, I forgot this panel. The Kissing in the Rain panel is also an homage to Say Anything. It just, this whole like kind of sequence is a little bit like, I love that movie, Say Anything. Obviously there was a band called Say Anything, so it's, you have to specify now. So yeah, Nathan gives the dream sequences these like really interesting dreamy colors. Also for the color editions, we kind of like gave each book its own color scheme. So volume 2 is like the blue volume, so you see a lot of blues and purples. Thank you guys. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I just wish I could have made music work, but I also don't want it to be, I don't want to get in trouble for using music that I'm not supposed to use. I always like this scene. I don't remember what inspired it. I think I saw something similar in a manga somewhere. But like just the panels get smaller and smaller and smaller as the bus drives away and as the insults continue. You're a stupid poo-poo head. One of them is oh, it's this one. This was from a Nick Cave song, I think. If bad was a boot, you'd fit it. It's so weird. I feel like people ask about this sign over here too, but this was a real sign that was on this wall in real life. This was just like, I think I took a photo, and I really started getting into photo reference in these first couple volumes of Scott Pilgrim, since I was living in Toronto at the time. Oh, and then I can show you this phone booth. I redrew the phone booth. It's like the thing that I always mention that I'm the proudest of, the phone booth. But look how crappy the phone booth looks originally. I was just like, I didn't have reference. I was just rushing it out. And then, when I did this one, like Google image search existed. So I just found a Toronto phone booth and I drew it for real. I was so happy with that. So dumb. This scene is like in the movie beat for beat too. There's a lot of like jokes about people being psychic and stuff, and then it kind of becomes true, I guess. So this is the Sonic Boom scene. Sonic Boom was a big record store. I mean, it still is. I think they had to move. They moved into Honest Ed's, and then Honest Ed's got demolished, and they had to move back out. I don't know where they are now exactly. I hope they're still around. But yeah, we used to go there all the time and buy CDs, cheap CDs. You can see Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy right here. I don't know if any of this other stuff is anything. I don't live in Canada. No, I live in LA. I've lived in LA for about 10 years. CL Misk. Oh, see that? I don't know if you're not like a record store browser, you would know that like this is this means they're like a really obscure band because they're like they're in a very specific like miscellaneous category, but they don't have their own section. And I feel like this would have been like maybe a self-produced album. I think I also redrew this one. Yeah, I did. This one also looked really ugly. Find it. It's not that bad, but it's just like it was kind of messy. Shit, I did it again. This is just gonna keep happening, you guys. That's what happens when your dad does PowerPoint. Come on. Okay, I just have to click and drag. I'm used to Mac controls. I've been using a Mac for a long time. Yeah, it just looks a little crappy. I was drawing really small and I was just trying to draw really fast. So there's just a few spots where I tightened up details. I tried not to change any like important stuff. Yeah, so Clash of Demon Head was my first Nintendo game. It's where this talking time above my head came from. But the band name is, The Clash. The Clash is a huge, important band, and I thought it'd be funny if this band incorporated the name of a more famous band into their own name, because the game is called Clash at Demon Head, not the Clash at Demon Head. So they're the Clash at Demon Head. You got to put the pause in. Yeah, it was a cool game. It doesn't hold up as well as some games. I played it again last summer for the first time in ages. It's fun. It's got a lot of stuff that was ahead of its time for sure. But also the general gameplay loop is a little boring. It's very repetitive, as a lot of NES games were back then. This is the part where they break up, which is also in the movie, kind of beat for beat. Immediately upon declaring her love, he dumps her because he's a cool guy and we love him. I looked at the thumbnails and they were different, and oh, that was interesting. Let me find that. Love. It looks a little different. It's just different. It's a different layout. But I found that I redid the layout after. So this is like, I don't know how much later. They're not dated, but I just realized it wasn't working, or it could have been more impactful, and I redid it. This one focused more on Scott, it feels like. And this one just kind of bounces back and forth between them and kind of is more simple. Your favorite scene is when all the characters praise Scott for being a good guy, Evangelion style. That's everyone's favorite scene. Why aren't you getting small? Okay. Oh, and this scene actually changed too. It's so big. Hat off in this scene. Interesting. Good note. Yeah, that helps. I was really happy with this scene, I remember. Here's the color version. And then this scene is like so powerful in color. My God. Nathan's so talented. It really pops. This might not be the final file. There might have been some corrections after this proof, but it's good, fun to look at early proofs. Yeah, and then Edgar did this scene in the movie too, like with the sliding. You like see the knives like slides out of the frame, and then Ramona slides into the frame. That's really cool too. But I was really happy with how this layout kind of gets that across. And he goes from like bummed to like happy in 2 pages, because he's a great guy and we love him. And then we go back to the band. Well, this is the first time we see the band, right? So and this scene is also in the movie, although they plussed the line, because in this he just says, maybe you'll meet my new girlfriend soon. But they did new girlfriend, building on the old new girlfriend line. That was really funny. Salt of the earth, scum of the earth. This stuff is all in the movie. The bass line from Final Fantasy II, which young people think is Final Fantasy IV. This stuff wasn't really any different. I might have fixed Kim's face a little. Oh, I did. I totally did. Look at Kim on the left, like over here. She looks a lot crappier. I fixed like the size of her hair and stuff. Oops, shit. Everything I click just gets ruined. I wrote this note. This is Beck, M-O-M. M-O-M like that was like an emoticon that we used to use. And it was like bowing. So it's like 2 hands and like a head, like you're bowing to the person. This is like an homage to the comic Beck, which was ongoing at the time, and it's like it's a comic about an aspiring rock band, a Japanese comic. But they drew really good guitar panels in Beck. So I was just like, that was a note to myself that this is gonna be a Beck homage. This is gonna be a good guitar drawing. And it turned out okay. It's like probably my first good guitar drawing, or first time trying. This guitar, I mean, it's a bass, but I mean, the bass is still a guitar. I really wanted a Fireglow Rickenbacker. I kept seeing one in the window of this guitar store, but it was like $3,000 or something, like way more money than I would ever have had at the time. So I gave it to my character instead. Yeah, there's guitar drawings in the first book, but I put a little more effort into this one. Oh my god, why do I always drink soda water on stream? Makes me burp forever. Yeah, it's funny like how much of this is in the movie, and then the movie really affects not just your memory of it, but my memory of it too. I think that's why it helps to go back to the black and white editions. This is the infamous bread scene coming up. I was pretty happy with this Ramona outfit at the time. It's not bad. I didn't really know anything about fashion though. This is the first like time they talk about her hair color. It's got two colors. It's obviously a black and white book with no colors whatsoever. So that was always difficult to navigate. That and the music, like, you can't hear music in a comic, so you kind of just have to give the impression of music. That's why you do those good guitar drawings sometimes. And then, yeah, this is the bread scene. Oh, fucking hell, I did it again. Mac controls coming back to kill me. Just want to zoom in. Just let me zoom. Garlic bread is my favorite food. I could honestly eat it for every meal or just all the time without even stopping. You get fat? No. You get totally fat. I don't think I get fat. Why would I get fat? Bread makes you fat. Butter makes you fat. Bread makes you fat? It's so dumb. And I don't know why it's the most popular line ever. Let me see if I have the thumbnail for this one. Maybe not. I don't think so. Anyway, bread makes you fat. So I've learned. It's strange but true. I've definitely gotten fat in quarantine. And I've been eating a lot of bread, so, something adds up. Yeah, that's one of the scenes that's like word for word in the movie. The only part they cut was butter makes you fat, which I think is a good call, and you don't really need that line. And yeah, the delivery of the line, like, that was one of the first scenes Edgar showed me, and I just died. It's so good. In the scene, he's wearing a Kraft shirt, like the brand Kraft, which is, I guess it used to be my favorite peanut butter. It's a Canadian peanut butter brand. Yeah, and then the hair crisis. Like when I was this age, I was basically cutting my own hair. Like I couldn't afford haircuts. And my hair was always awful. And I was always like paranoid. But I was never this paranoid, but like it was just funny to write it this way. And yeah. There's also like when I was a little baby, my parents always would tell me this story like when like my mom got a perm, she got curly hair in like the early 80s, the mid 80s, and like when she came home with her like curly hair, I was like crying, and that my dad always says like that was the first time that I started liking him. Just like fled to my dad. Um, so that, I don't know, that kind of goes in there too. There's always just like you got to think about your whole life before you write a single scene. Just how it goes. Oh, then we get a Kim chapter, which which I thought would be fun. After having Kim in the opening, I was like, people are going to be thinking about Kim. So we do this like very abstract dream sequence, which I have no idea what this dream is supposed to mean or symbolize. I was just like, this is the inside of Kim's head. It's a mess in there. She dreams about Scott getting killed by this Gideon guy who, I mean, technically shouldn't appear as Gideon in her dream, but you know, who knows? Who knows what happens? Yeah, you see his initials on the thing. SW Pilgrim. Had it coming to him. And then you see like her high school friends, like as grown-ups at the funeral. And it's just like, it's really morbid and weird. And that's Kim. And then we see that she like hates her roommates. She has this like ongoing war with them. And that was very true to life too. We had this roommate at the time I was doing the first book of Scott Pilgrim that was just like new roommate that came from who knows where, like someone's classmate or something. And like she was just a nightmare. So that was a real life struggle. But this was drawn a few years later. I'm gonna drink regular water. See how that works. This like Kim's apartment was based on my sister's apartment at the time when she was going to University of Toronto. It's implied that a bunch of them went to the University of Toronto. Kim did not, though. Kim came down. So they all grew up like in Northern Ontario, which is like a 6 or 8 hour drive away. And it's like the boonies. And it's implied that Kim went to university up there. And she just moved down like in her mid-20s. So she doesn't like fit in as well. So then this was based on a video store that was beside the Beguiling, the comic store where I used to work. And they wouldn't, whoever was working the day I walked in, like to ask if I could take some pictures, they wouldn't let me take pictures. So it's all drawn from memory, and I changed the name, which is probably for the best. I honestly can't even remember what the name was. And now it's so weird, like video stores are just like such a like nostalgic memory. But at the time, they were still thriving to some degree. Vintage Video, is that the one? I couldn't remember if it was Vintage or Suspect or something like that. And Holly is this new like kind of gothy character that just, she's kind of like a tertiary character. She's just kind of like loosely based on like the types of people that I would see working at these places. Yeah, the TVs are all tube TVs, like, because they're, you know, it's not, I don't think flat screens really came into popularity until a few years later. So that was not like, I wasn't intentionally making it look old. Like, that's just how things looked. I was just drawing what I saw. Like, I always remember in one of the first X-Men movies, maybe it was the first X-Men movie, like every TV in that movie was a flat screen, and it was like all the same exact one. Like everywhere they went, there would be like the same TV. But it was so jarring at the time. But obviously now it's probably more jarring to see old TVs. There's this little bit about how he has so many late fees. And this like dumb story about why he has late fees. And then they use this for the video game, which is like the most expensive thing in the video game is paying off Scott's late fees. And then you can get like really powerful items after that. And they talk a lot about Lucas Lee here. We've already introduced the concept of Lucas Lee. And there's like a very big build up to Lucas Lee, and then it's like a huge letdown, and that was very intentional. So apparently Lucas Lee was in one good movie called Let's Hope There's a Heaven. All of his movies are named after Plumtree songs. Because I decided that things in the Scott Pilgrim universe would be named after Plumtree songs, just like how Scott Pilgrim is named after a Plumtree song. Oh my god. Some of these background movies. Jewel, the movie. Jewel was a pop singer from the 90s. She still exists. Cube 2 Hypercube. Some of my friends worked on that movie, apparently. Canadian schlocky sci-fi thing. Oh, Croc 3, you guys pointed out. This one has regular Cube over here. Oh, and then there's Action Doctor. There's a Mr. Show DVD down here, too. Lame Laughs 4. Bad and Way Worse. Yeah, Edgar just like took Action Doctor and ran with it. It's like a tiny little drawing in this book. He, did a whole Chris Evans photo shoot for that one little tiny drawing. It's so ridiculous. Like, what is my life? This looks like pornos. I mean, that's what these video stores were like. There's a lot of pornos in them. That's what we used to call porn, pornos. The story is somewhat gay, yes. Yeah, I never tell the story of how Scott and Wallace became friends. I just like to imply that, like, something untoward may have happened. I hate Ramona's outfit in this scene. This is like one of the few times you see her in pants. Stacy Pilgrim. So this, like, my sister is named Stacy, and the character was like heavily based on my sister. I mean, essentially, I was just like, I'm gonna put you in my book. And she worked at Second Cup, and when they did the movie, she gave her actual badge to Anna Kendrick, and that's what Anna Kendrick wears in the movie. It just says Stacy, it doesn't say Stacy Pilgrim. Yeah, some of you guys are pointing out, yeah, in volume 3 we see more of we see a bit of a flashback as to how they met. We don't see all the details though. Stuff is definitely omitted. Beck also wrote and recorded a song based on this one panel, which I always thought was just such a mindfuck. I don't know if that was on the soundtrack or not. You might hear it for like a second. I don't remember. It's probably going to be on the special box set of the movie soundtrack. But yeah, it's like, I'm so indefatigable. Come on, come on. It's so dumb. Like, I wrote like the most clunky word to put in a song, and he clearly, like, he was flipping through the book and he saw that as a challenge, and he recorded that damn song. And that's pretty cool. It's like I was trolling back without even knowing it. You wouldn't be surprised if they use volume 1 as a storyboard instead of a storyboard. I mean, that's pretty accurate. Most of the storyboards for the movie, maybe not most, but maybe like at least 50% of the storyboards were either panels from the comic or slightly rearranged panels from the comic. So like a lot of my art was on set at all times. This is one of the things I redrew. Let's look at this one. This one looks really cute, I think. It looks okay. It's just like I wasn't used to drawing these characters yet. Oh shit, I always do it. These two apps have different behaviors with what I'm trying to do. That's the problem. I'm trying to do like a 2-finger drag, and it works in one app and it doesn't work in the other app. Yeah, so I just kind of cleaned up their faces and stuff. they were brand new characters who hadn't really appeared in the book yet. I also did. Where's this? Is this the right thing? Oh yeah, so the same drawing is on the back, or like a version of the same drawing is on the back cover of the original book. So I mean, this one was a little bit better than this one. This is just a much bigger drawing too. This, I think, was inspired by an old photo of Garbage, the band Garbage. The girl, Shirley Manson, the lead singer of the band, was a redhead, and I think she wore like a jacket like that. So that was just kind of a total Garbage ripoff. And this one looks more like a red leather jacket. I don't know if that's the same as the final art. And the character Lynette is named after the drummer from Plumtree, Lynette Gillis. This is the part where he sings her the song that he made up, which again, it's like you can't really show music, like good or bad, in a comic, so you kind of just make him sound like an idiot and hope for the best. But they made this obviously so good in the movie when he sings this song. This scene essentially became the famous Texas switch jump out the window shot in the movie. So once again, they took my joke and they really built it up into something magical. But in the book, the scene is just like she calls, and this is, back in the days of landlines, and most people didn't have cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone. So she calls looking for Scott. Wallace picks up, and then Wallace realizes she's right there, like he can hear her outside. But they built on that and turned it into Scott also being there and jumping out the window. Actually, the very first thing Edgar showed me from the movie was the scene of the Lucas Lee movie where Chris Evans is like limping across that huge harbor front, and like he's got the gun and he goes to the phone booth. Like there's a phone booth on the harbor front for no reason. Yeah, when he showed me that scene, I was just like, what is happening? This is amazing. But that's not in the book at all. It was just Edgar really took the idea of Lucas Lee being like a dumb action star, and he like just took it so much further, and I love it. I just really didn't know what I was doing with Lucas. I was never like an action movie fan, really. I mean, like I've seen a lot more stuff now. I was not really like big. I didn't watch a lot of movies when I was in high school aged. But yeah, like the things the kind of like Hollywood knowledge that he brought to it made it so much better. As Long as the Road Lacks Perspective is the name of a Gordon Downey song. R.I.P. Gordon Downey. This is just like a cute scene where his parents call. Scott's ideas about Rome. I don't know where this came from. I mean, this is literally, I was like, what do I know about Rome? And then I put some stuff that I knew about Rome and other stuff that I knew was incorrect. Like the Leaning Tower of Pisa is not in Rome. But I was like, I do associate that with Rome. I think like maybe my parents went to Rome one year and like they also went to Pisa and took a picture at the tower. And a spicy meatball. I mean, that's just classic comedy, right? Sorry to any Italians in the chat. The Pope of Rome. I mean, that was just like, that's, I don't know. I grew up going to Catholic church, so that's what people call the Pope of Rome. And there's like an antiquated way of referring to the Pope. And the movie Gladiator. Nathan's always so good at sunsets. I was always asking him to make every scene a sunset scene. It's just like that. It's kind of like what they do in anime a lot. So I just wanted to have that feeling, that golden hour feeling. The Pope has a P on his hat for Pope. Yes, that is correct. 100%. I did not look at a picture of the Pope before drawing that Pope. And this is like Scott's brain is drawing. It's not me drawing. It's not my fault. Although the Vespa is pretty good. That's because I've drawn Vespas before. I had to draw Vespas for my previous series, Hopeless Savages, that I drew for a different writer. This kitchen was based on my friend's kitchen in Toronto back in the day. What's weird is they just woke up and it's already sunset. Yeah, exactly. It's just always sunset. And whenever it's nighttime, the full moon is always out. Like I realized that like years later. I was just like, why is it always a full moon? Like, that's all I know about the moon is the full moon. I literally have no idea how the moon works. Like I look up at the sky at night sometimes and I'm like, oh, it's a little sliver today. And then the next day I'm like, oh, it's a full moon. Sorry to any moon scientists or moon residents out there. This is the scene where they cook dinner, which is something that me and my friends used to do a lot. And I don't know why I did vegan shepherd's pie. I don't think we ever, maybe we did it. It was something that I was like learning to make at the time. I was just like, I was like 20, in my mid 20s and learning to cook a little bit and kind of just wanted to pass things on. Yes, Steven's squatting by his, all the ingredients are like already out, ready to go. The finest olive oil. Soy milk. It's called So Nice. That was a Canadian soy milk brand. I don't know if it still exists. Fake meat stuff. Eve's Fake Meat. That was also a Canadian brand, probably still around. Would I do this kind of stream on seconds? Yeah, probably eventually. We'll see how this one goes first. And then we get this little scene where Knives is peeking in. I love how Nathan made it all red. Just like complete psychosis. And then she like zooms away. We missed a number here. It goes 5, 6, 8. And I opted not to correct it in the color edition because I thought it was funny. But it was an honest mistake. I'm going to put my sweater off. I'm very warm. Yeah, so I'm like totally covered in bandages on my front because of my cat scratching me up. Not like bandages, like large band-aids. Chopper's Drug Mart. Let's go back to black and white for a sec. It's so different in black and white. This is how it was, man. And when I was doing the black and white, like I think like Naruto was kind of big at the time, and One Piece, and they both use like very little, very sparing amounts of screen tone. So you just see like little bits here and there. But starting with volume 3, I started to get more into heavier screen tone. But yeah, you can see here, like, you know, it pops so much more in red. This whole scene like reads so well in color. You know, when I look back, I'm like, it's relatively cinematic, like for a comic, for someone who was not like a big movie person. Never, I mean, I went to film school, but like I flunked out. I don't know, I think I just kind of like absorbed the language of it. But it does come across better in color. This one, so the original says Shoppers Drug Mart. I changed it for the color edition. Shoppers Drug Mart is an actual brand, but they declined to be used in the movie, so I thought I would take it out for the later edition, just out of respect, or out of fuck you, whichever. So yeah, this is the scene. This is also pretty, pretty well represented in the movie. Knives is dyeing her hair. I didn't really know how to do hair dye, so it's kind of incomplete. But I don't know. When I was young, a little younger than this, when I was like 19, 20, maybe I had my female friends dye my hair, like bleach my hair and dye it red. And it was so rad. I felt so cool. And my parents hated it, and like they still would talk about it. Like, you know, my mom talked about my red hair like till her dying day. Like, so, you know, she was not very happy about that. But you know, I gave it to Knives. And in the movie they made her hair blue because Ramona's hair was blue, and it kind of like it just kind of played better to like imply that she's influenced by Ramona, or she's trying to be like Ramona to get Scott back. It works for me. I just like red. I always like put a lot of red in my color comics. Or I think of everyone as like having red on them. The rooms feel authentic, like real life rooms. Thank you. I mean, I feel like messy bedrooms are something I'm pretty good at drawing, something I have a lot of personal experience with. I'm always drawing like 2000s era decor, like these CD shelves on the wall and stuff, and like weird little stereos. It's like it's not a cool bedroom. It's just like it's her suburban parents' house, you know. I really like how this toilet looks. Did I redraw this toilet? Probably. No, I didn't. Wow, I drew a really good toilet back in 2005. That's a hot toilet. And then we opted to make Ramona's room pink. I don't remember the reasoning. Maybe just because her hair is pink at this point. Ramona's room color changes just as much as her hair color, if you're paying attention. And this is the scene where she has a cat all of a sudden. I don't know how to explain that other than that's what happens to people. People just suddenly get cats. One day they don't have a cat, and the next day they do have a cat. Toilet drawing stream when. Is Ramona bad with money? I don't think so. Ramona seems like she's pretty fiscally conservative. And she's very tidy. Like look at her room compared to Knives' room. This is like a big, huge mess. And very like neutral, kind of like adult colors, like her parents picked everything. And this is clearly like Ramona is expressing herself, but she keeps it very clean. So that tells you something about Ramona. I don't know what. She makes a list about what sucks about Scott's apartment, which is very type A, I guess. So that tells you more about Ramona. She's a list maker. And then he asks her about Lucas, which we don't have. There isn't a flashback in this book. It's just kind of they just talk. So there's no cute little drawings of past Lucas. I toyed with it. I remember I did some sketches of like Lucas as a teen, but my idea was that Lucas really transformed himself. Like he was obviously going to be like a skinny teen with like long hair, like a little skater boy, and he grows up into this like muscular dude. Like I didn't want to confuse people too much. I don't know, so I just left it out. Oh, I missed a question. I don't understand what it was though. Someone's asking, is the art going on sale on Felix Comic Art, hand drawn by me? Yeah, it is. It's a bunch of different stuff that I've done over the past few years. There's some stuff from the miniatures game that's coming out soonish, and some other stuff like that. Miscellaneous, and I think he still has like old pages and stuff too from the actual series. I just basically let him keep all my art. Like he stores all my art for me. So this is where they go to Casa Loma. Where's the black and white? This is like a pretty decent drawing of this Casa Loma staircase. Like I'm pretty impressed with myself. I was really putting in some work there. Casa Loma's a real place. I just copied all this stuff from like Casa Loma's website at the time, including their hours. I was just like, I just wanted, for graphic design purposes, I wanted a certain amount of text, and that's what I copied and pasted. That's my lorem ipsum for this page. I feel like I'm getting a little dark. Okay. So yeah, this is the extremely anticlimactic Lucas Lee scene, which is much less anticlimactic in the movie. So it makes the book seem a little sad by comparison. But I wanted it to appear a little early in the book and to be a little bit of a letdown, because the real fight in this book is when Ramona and Knives meet, which happens later. But yeah, they took this bit and ran with it in the movie, and like that's kind of how the fight begins in the movie. But this is like the beginning and the end of the fight in the comic. They just sit down and start talking after that. They eat baby carrots and Ritz crackers. Do I think Ramona has a type, or did she always just go with the tide? I don't know. I guess it kind of seems like the latter, right? Like she dates so many different types. So maybe she's just trying different guys, like the way she tries different hairstyles and stuff. Lucas has like his little crying moment. He says he's trying out for the Oscar, I think. Oh yeah, he says I'm going for an Oscar this year. Lucas's look was loosely modeled on the owner of the comic store where I used to go back in London, Ontario. Heroes, Cards, and Comics. Nice dude. Another decent drawing of the staircase. It looks so good with the color, though. And then, like, they made this scene so much more dramatic and cool in the movie. That was the first part of the movie that I was actually on set for. It was like middle of the night in April in Toronto. It was freezing cold, and it was very cool. One of the coolest weeks of my life. I got to see a lot of stunts happen. And this is why it all happened. I drew this little bit of comics one day. I think this looks cool in black and white. I don't know. I don't think this was like inspired by anything in particular other than like skating video games, like maybe like Jet Set Radio, which is like a grinding game. Any game where you can grind and you can take corners. It also makes me think of Battletoads, the second last level of Battletoads. You're like getting away from this like razor blade and you have to take the corners really fast. And every time you take a corner, it feels like you're speeding up. So I have like little indicators of his speed, and it just like goes up higher and higher as he goes, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know anything about physics, so don't ask me. I don't know if this is the final colors. I'm going to check. I don't want to say like it feels wrong, but no, yeah, I guess that's right. I'm just surprised it's not a little more crazy in the colors. It's very muted, calm colors. It's a very chill scene of him going 300 kilometers per hour down a staircase. I was always disappointed with this scene. I should have drawn it as a wide panel instead of as a tall panel. But you know what? It's fine. This is another bit that they put in the video game, which probably just really confuses people. There's an item that appears, but you can't get it. And that's exactly what happens here. The mithril skateboard pops out, but he doesn't have the right like stats for it, so he can't use it. That's what happens in video games, you guys. Yeah, you can't get the item, and it's anticlimactic. That's the intention, apparently. And then we cut immediately to this like really dramatic shot of knives after the anticlimactic ending of that fight. We're like, and the title's Nothing's Ever Over. So I was just like, I don't know. At this point, I think the pacing of the book is pretty good. I'm really happy with the last couple of bits of this book. And yeah, in later years, this is where TCAF started to be held. But at the time, it was not. The TCAF this year that this book came out was in a parking lot, and it was really shitty. So, but TCAF is a great festival put on by my former roommate Chris, the inspiration for Wallace, and it's very, very good. It's been going for a long time now, and they get worldwide guests. It's free, and I hope we can do it again someday. This scene kind of became the Aubrey Plaza censoring her mouth. How do you do that with your mouth scene? Which is not in the comic. Some of the dialogue is very similar, though. But, you know, they plussed it. They built on it. They made it funny, and I like that a lot. Good job, you guys. Here's some drawings of the inside of the Toronto Reference Library. It's just like, it has very like futuristic, like 70s futuristic architecture. And I always really liked it. So I put it in my book. And that's me right there. That was a drawing of myself. What I looked like in 2005. In this scene, Scott is playing Parodius. Shit, I did the thing again. In the black and white, it was literally just like a screen cap. And in the color edition, I decided I would actually draw it. So it looks better. It looks more like Parodius. You can't really tell what game it is unless you know what game it is. You can see the penguin right here. Does Julie not have her glasses? And then are they there in the color? Oh, they are, yeah. Let me see. So yeah, I believe this is where later on we see her with glasses, and it's because I got her confused with Monique, this other character who looks kind of similar. And you know, at the time they were both like relatively minor characters. Like Julie becomes more central as it goes on. So I drew her with glasses, and then like I really liked it. So in later versions, I went back and added glasses to the earlier scenes. But in the black and white, she just suddenly has glasses at the end of book 2. I mean, she looks more distinctive with glasses, and I like how she looks, and that's part of how she became more of a major character, I think. Once I added the glasses, I was like, oh, this is starting to click. I love these panels right here where Scott's just like lost in his own shit, and like Julie's lecturing him, and he's just like not even listening. He's talking about his own thing. And I like how Nathan did the lighting there. That's really cute. And this whole scene is like based on not being able to reach people, which is a very old-fashioned storytelling device that's a lot harder to pull off now that people have cell phones and texting and shit like that. But yeah, this whole scene is just like, where's Ramona? Where's Stacy? And they're together. Which Scott sees as a problem because Stacy is the person who knows him better than anyone, and Stacy could potentially tell Ramona something really off-putting about him. So he's really nervous about his sister hanging out with Ramona because he knows he's a dirtbag. Hello, how's everyone doing, by the way? People seem to be enjoying it, sticking around. We're like over 300. That's double what I've ever had before for games, so that's good. So this is like the climactic fight of this book. So I switched up the formula. The Evil X is like done. We don't fucking care about him anymore. The more interesting fight is this one, because we've really been building up these two characters separately, and they met briefly in that scene at the rocket, but this is the first time, like, you know, Knives is mad. She thinks she has the right reason to be mad, and Ramona's just defending herself. And you know, this is the first time we see Ramona fight. We're like, can Ramona fight? And then the answer is yes. So I thought this scene would be really like exciting and fun. And it was a lot of fun to draw. I did not put a lot of work into the background characters though. But you know what? You try drawing a big fight scene with a bunch of background characters. Does this look any different? Oh, I changed it a tiny bit. What you see a lot in between the black and white and color is like, I'll just move the nose and mouth a little bit. So if you look at Ramona's face right here, that's kind of like pretty good proportions. But in the old one, her nose and mouth are a little bit low, and it just makes her look a little odd. So I did a bit of stuff like that, just shifting noses and mouths around. Because when I'm inking real fast, like sometimes I'll just miss where I wanted it to be. Yeah, if it's late for some of you guys, if you're in Europe or whatever, the videos will be saved. So just check the videos tab in the next few days or whatever. Don't stay up on my account. It's a school night. I remember really asking Nathan to do poppy bright colors here. I really like how this yellow looks. I mean, the thing is, everything looks way brighter on a screen too. Like on the actual paper, it looks a little more saturated, a little more subtle. So it's a little different. I remember being really happy with this page. This is a flashback to book 1 from Knives' point of view, where she kind of like, her version is like Ramona kind of like give her an evil smile. I remember Jim Rugg bought this page from me. Like that, maybe there was that decaf. Jim Rugg, cool guy. He does a YouTube called Cartoonist Kayfabe now. That's very popular. Check it out. So Knives kind of misremembers how this scene played out, and then she concludes that Scott was cheating on her, which is true, but she didn't get there with the right deductive reasoning, or like she doesn't have all the facts. So she got to the right conclusion, but she doesn't really know how she got there. And then she gets emotional. She declares she's a Scottaholic. She's like a Scott Pilgrim fan. This is before there were Scott Pilgrim fans, but that's basically what she is. She's a fan of the real life Scott Pilgrim. Did I have the full story planned out when I wrote the first book? Not really. I would say I had the first 3 books kind of more or less planned out. And also, like, I knew there was going to be 7 evil X's, so I kind of had that as a loose roadmap. So they fight, and they all have various strengths and weaknesses. This scene is an homage to Monkey Island, where she says, "How appropriate you fight like a cow." Monkey Island has this whole sword fighting sequence where you have to pair the right. There's like insults and then there's comebacks. You have to pair the right comebacks with the right insults. And how appropriate you fight like a cow is kind of like the wrong one, the one that never works until like the very end of the game. So that's a little shout out to Monkey Island, where she gets the exact right setup to say how appropriate you fight like a cow. When Knives says, "I totally grazed you." And then there's another video game thing on this page. No, I don't know the cheat code for Sonic 3. I always had a lot of trouble with the cheat code for Sonic 3. The inputs are very difficult for some reason. He's also playing solitaire. He says he's very busy, but he's clearly playing solitaire. And Scott wants him to stay on the line. And this is kind of Stacy says, "Who doesn't have call waiting these days?" This is just like the technology of the time, man. Things are so different now. But it was a lot easier to justify like people not being able to get in touch with each other just with a dumb joke like this. Like none of this would have happened if, someone talked to someone in time or whatever. Someone explained. Or if Scott had said the right thing. Or if Scott had, broken up with Knives before dating Ramona, that could have been good too. But he didn't. So this is where we see like Ramona is kind of like the tank character already. She picks up this like really heavy pot. And that's kind of like before she has her hammer too. And I was trying to play with the geography of the library. Like I went and took a lot of pictures before I drew this scene. This is when I still lived in Toronto. And Knives leaves a note, and we think it's going to be like some kind of challenge or something, but all it says is, "You're ugly and I hate you." And it's signed Knives Chow with a little star. And then someone says, "What kind of idiot would knowingly date a girl named Knives?" That's a good question. And then, like, as if that wasn't enough, we get one more thing happens. There's this like ominous like zooming into Scott page as the phone rings, and then everything like kind of changes color, and then there's this like very like weird, disconnected, discombobulated scene where he's on the phone with the person that we can't see, who's Envy Adams, his ex-girlfriend. So, I mean, this was like just, I was like really running out of time. I think I had a different version of the scene. I just didn't know how to portray this phone call. So I was like, I'm just going to do this grid. And like, I drew a bunch of different Scott pictures and I kind of just started moving stuff around. Like, so this was really like assembled digitally. And I think it's effective because it really jars you out of what's been happening. It's a totally different format. And it's like a side of Scott we haven't seen. And then it puts him like in a coma on the floor. I really like these Wallace lines too. Was your poop a weird color? He's like diagnosing Scott's problem when Scott can't even speak. And this is also the first time anyone swears in Scott Pilgrim. Wallace says shit about envy. That one's cute too. Things keep happening. That's also true in real life. Wallace's instant understanding of the severity gives you chills. Good. That's the idea. It's like, we're like, how serious is this? If Wallace like knows, Wallace like can basically read his mind, and he knows how bad this is. So we're building up envy as like the big bad for the first 3 books. For Scott, from Scott's emotional perspective, Scott has to get over this breakup that he never got over. He talks to Stacy, the person who knows him best, who he didn't get to talk to the day before. This is the scene where he spills his cocoa in his lap, which they put in the movie during the Gideon phone call. A lot of like bits and jokes were kind of like surgically removed from their original scenes, especially as the series goes on. And then we're at this scene, where Scott tells the band that Envy is inviting them. And this is, new girlfriend does come from the book, but Kim has the line. And I feel like in the movie they gave a bunch of Kim's lines to other people, and they made her less funny, which is too bad. Anyway, yeah, she says, soon we'll meet your new girlfriend. So she's the one who's funny. Scott is not the one who's funny. Scott is a moron in this book. But we feel for him because we're seeing more depth to him. And we see like Steven's initially excited, but like he talks himself into being super anxious by the end of the page. Kim talks herself into being like feeling inferior to Envy. She thinks Envy's like really pretty. So like there's just no excitement. Like Scott is not excited. No one's excited. They immediately want to get out of it, even though it's a huge opportunity for them. And you know what? That feels true to life a lot of the time. Huge opportunities can be very intimidating, and like there's a huge chance for failure. I always like this outfit. This is like the most 2005 looking thing that Ramona ever wears, I feel. Especially this like seafoam green color. I believe this background was just like the street right outside my apartment. In this scene, they talk about their exes. She asks them about Envy, and she says, I dated a Todd once. So that stuff is in the movie in some form. They talk about the Queen. Ramona never wants to hear the story of Scott's exes. Like, she just doesn't care. I think on some level, Ramona is also a little intimidated by Envy, because Envy is like this famous rock star and stuff. And this is where Scott tells the story of his old job, which I think you allude to it in the first book on their first date. He says his last job was a story filled with sighs or something like that. And it's like the dumbest story ever. His job was called the Gilded Palace of Flying Burritos, which is there's a band called the Flying Burrito Brothers. Stephen Stills was in that band for a time. So the real life Stephen Stills, I mean. This is back in the 70s. So it's all like kind of like deep music lore. So if you're like just a video game fan and you missed all the deep music lore, I'm sorry. And here he's wearing the nudie suit, like a Graham Parsons famous look from the early 70s. And he sings this really dumb song that I wrote. It's like a classic country waltz in G. It's pretty funny, I think. That's my favorite like song bit that I put in the books. I kind of backed away from doing this after this book, I think. I should sing it. That'd be funny. It's been a really long time since I tried to play the song. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come back to it. My guitar is really far away. It's way the hell back there. This, I think, was the last page I drew. I always leave something really complicated for the very end because I'm a lazy idiot. But I was so happy with how it came out. So sometimes it's good to leave like one complicated thing for the end. Because at the end, you're kind of like in really good shape. You kind of know what you're doing. Anyway, this is Lee's Palace as it was back then. It's a real club in Toronto on Bloor, close to where the Beguiling used to be. Still, the Beguiling is still in the same general neighborhood, but they had to move a couple years ago because Honest Ed's got torn down. But yeah, I used to see a lot of bands there. I think I gave Scott a line very similar to that. I used to see a lot of bands there. It's always past tense, like he stopped going to shows. We see Kim wearing a dress and heels. And then we see Knives with young Neil. Oh, and then we meet Joseph, who's not in the movie. I remember they were really into Joseph, and they really wanted to put him in the movie, but there was just no justification for it. Joseph's thing is that he talks really small, like his dialogue is super tiny. Like roast beef from Akewood. Akewood was a popular webcomic in the 2000s. I'm sure it's still around in some form. Here we see Sandra and Monique, who appeared in the first book in the party scene. This is our first time catching up with them, but this must be where I got confused with Monique and Julie. But like this is very Monique, but then when I drew Julie on the next page, I just started drawing her in glasses because I had just been drawing Monique. And I don't know what happened. Brain fart. But it resulted in Julie having glasses for the whole series. What's happening in this scene? Everyone's just kind of building up Envy in this part. Envy's about to play. She's very popular, but Scott has this kind of like nebulous past with her that we don't really know much about it at this point. We get a call back to Kim and her roommates. Kim's bitchy roommates, who we see more of later. Maybe there's like a little mini comic that I did about Kim and her roommates. I don't remember if they get much play in the actual series, though. This guy, Luke Wilson, was a friend of mine who we were in a band together. So I just kept putting my friends in the comic because it was fun. So he's Crash from Crash and the Boys. And these two guys also. This is Joel, who Joel McMillan was my other bandmate who inspired Stephen Stills. And this is this guy, Andrew Patton, who used to be in a band with my sister in high school. And then he started hanging out with me and my friends for a bit. And we saw a few shows together, so I just kind of threw him in there. He played bass on a couple of my songs too. Lynette smokes, which makes her evil. I don't know why, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't find that jarring that they say smoking is evil. In Scott Pilgrim world, you know, things can be evil. No judgment on smokers in real life. What it really is it makes you cool, and being cool is slightly evil. Yeah, exactly. Rami smokes. Ramona smokes. So does that make her evil? Lisa smokes too later. But Scott's worldview becomes more gray as the series goes on. But this is like, these guys kind of represent Scott's worldview at this point. Yeah, they almost put Ramona smoking in the movie. And Chris Evans smoking too, but they cut those shots. I think that was a good move. Like, even when these books were coming out, I think this was right around the time Toronto outlawed smoking in bars and stuff. So that was like a totally new thing. Like, bars had always been very smoky, and suddenly they weren't. So it was just like, you know, society like judged smoking. I've never really been a smoker. I've smoked like 2 cigarettes in my life. Scott Todd's shirt, Punisher skull or random edgy skull? I don't know. It wasn't like, if it had been a Punisher skull, I probably would have drawn it more like a Punisher skull. It's just like a tall skull. I don't know. People took it as a Punisher skull. But in the movie, they still used my drawing of the skull. They didn't use a Punisher skull. I do like this spread, this like page turn. I thought it was interesting how they use this narration for the movie. But yeah, you can see I redid this spread, right? I reworked their faces again because this was the first time I really drew them. And then, you know, over the course of volume 3, like, I kind of refined how they looked. So I went back and changed it later, and I redid the sound effect. And I think it looks cool. Good job. Go me. Yeah, and her hair is Asuka from Evangelion. This was before Death Note came out in English, so I was not aware of the character of Misa Misa. In the movie, I will admit she looks more like Misa Misa because she's blonde. But you know what? It was the mid-2000s. That's just like, if you want to draw like a pop star female character, like, that was a viable option. Yeah, Todd's base, I think, is a Rickenbacker in the... No, later he does have a Mustang. He has the same base as Scott, but he has other bases too because he's, you know, rich and famous. The Mustang is the same base that Chris Murphy from Sloan uses. And that was the guy who ended up training the actors to play music. So in the movie, I believe he uses the Fender Mustang. This made you actually like a book. You never liked a book before. You should check out books. I highly recommend them. Okay, well, this is the end of this book. I'll flip through the extra features too, I guess. But yeah, this one ends on a big cliffhanger of we just figured out that these are both of their exes are in a band together, and they are going to have a conflict. So, it's a big moment. I was really happy with how all this came out. And the book is very like ramshackle. Like it's like it takes its sweet time to get to this point, but by the end, like it's really kind of tightening the screws, and hopefully it gets exciting, and you're like, damn, I want to see what happens next. And someday you will. So this was a little comic that I made around the same time. So we reprinted it in the back of this. But it's just kind of like Scott and Stephen Stills like characters, but it takes place in the 70s. So I'm just like, what is it? They're dads? I don't know. Where do I rank book 2? I like book 2 a lot. I don't know. They always fluctuate for me. I don't know. It's too hard for me to rank them. They're all special to me. Book 2 is pretty long. It's one of the longer ones. I like that about it. And I do really like the last 3 chapters. I don't think it's the tightest or necessarily the most fun, but it kind of expands the world a lot. We don't really have to pay too much attention to this comic, but it was just a weird little comic that I did for an anthology at the same time. And I was trying to use a thicker brush. I was into like Sega art from the 90s and stuff, and I was just like trying to do something like a little chunkier and more stylized. All these little side things I did, would end up kind of influencing how I worked on Scott Pilgrim. This is totally a Stephen Stills style shirt. Yeah, I mean, I always thought of that as kind of like a 70s look. So this was like my 70s homage. This like dude with a trench coat and sideburns, and this girl with like a center part. But it's like this really strange, like very short alien invasion story, and Monica Beetle turns into this interesting superhero. But the Scott Pilgrim type character like just doesn't really care. He kind of just wants to bang her. So yeah, it's it's a very short comic. It doesn't really have a whole ton to say. I always struggled with doing short comics. That was an eight pager. This extras thing doesn't look right. I don't think that's how it looks in the book. It's probably just a PDF problem. This just goes into some sketchbook stuff from the Times. August 2004 to January 2005. Some of the teenager sketches. Some Ramona outfit sketches. These like Converse 1 stars that I had her in for part of it. And these boots. I think this is the first time these boots appeared, so I think I drew similar boots on her for the rest of the series. Yeah, I was always like interested in fashion, but as the series went on, like I became more and more aware of it, especially with Envy. Like you can see some of these early drawings of Envy are very like not fashionable, and like I just ended up having to do more research just to kind of draw a credible like rich person. Some scenes are better than others in terms of outfits. Early ideas for Todd Ingram. It says French ? Soul patch ? But I got away from all that. This is the line where I got away from it. Todd Ingram is Ken to Scott's Ryu. So that's a Street Fighter reference, but he's just like he's an alternate version of Scott, like an alt color of Scott, basically. And then I kind of built on it from there. Art question. Did I study anatomy and such before settling into my cartoon style? No, I did not. I can barely draw. So, I just, I learned on the job. I just drew as good as I could. And, and I got better as I went along. I don't feel I've joked a lot over the past decade. Like, at one point I learned how knees work, and like at one point I learned how hips work, but like it took me years and years and years. I've never really had like much patience for figure drawings and or talent. So, um, some people can draw cartoons pretty good and not draw like a really good portrait of like a real person. So that's just who I am, man. You were at a convention, someone asked when I started taking drawing seriously, and I said I never did. Sounds like me. Here's some reference photos. Probably a little hard to see on your screen, but yeah, I did a lot of reference as I kept saying. I lived in Toronto for most of this book. I moved out of Toronto actually towards the end of inking this book, but I did all my reference first. And I knew that volume 3 would take place in Lee's Palace mostly. So I took a lot of pictures there. And I was fortunate like that my band at the time got to play a show at Lee's Palace right before I moved. So I got a lot of photos that time, backstage and all that. The actual backstage that we see in volume 3 is fictional. Like there's no actual like green room back there, but I needed a location. This was like a poster that I did around the same time for volume 1, 2, and 3. And this also became the Japanese cover of the book, of book 1 and 2, I guess. That's it. Well, that's the end of the book. I don't know. Is anything different in this one? No. Well, we can do some Q&A before I log off, but what do you guys think? Ask some questions. If I already went over them, I will ignore them. You can go back and watch the video later. You're surprised the library is real? You assumed it was an absurdly large library out of convenience for the fight scene? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell, man. Movie magic, comic magic. Was the chapter The Glow Part 2 a reference to the microphones? Yes. The microphones are a band, and they have an album called The Glow Part 2. So I intentionally set up a chapter called The Glow, and then I got to do a chapter called The Glow Part 2. So that was a little shout out to them. What is Ramona's full name? Ramona V. Flowers. They say it in this book, I think. Victoria, right? Like the Queen. That's what they say. That's the scene. Is Todd into the Punisher? I don't know, man. I don't know what Todd's into. I don't think Todd knows what that is. Would I recommend reading the color or the black and white version? I would probably recommend the color at this point because, especially if you've seen the movie and the game, like it's kind of a downgrade to read the black and white after that. And I don't want you to downgrade for me. Is Scott reflective of real life bass players? I mean, I don't paint anyone with that broad of a brush. I don't know what all the bass players are like. All I know is that when I learned to play bass, it was for my little sister in high school for a performance. And I played it because it was the easiest thing to play. And I didn't know how to play guitar at all. So that's how I started playing bass. So that was my headcanon for how Scott probably started playing bass. It was just like someone was like, this is easy, you just do it. And then he's just been doing it ever since. And he probably never really got super good at it. But then in the movie, Michael Cera was actually really good at bass. So he upped the game of the character. can I play something on bass? No, I don't even have a bass. I don't really play bass. That was the time I played bass for my sister that one time. I had a bass for a few years, but I got rid of it. I think I got it like from a thrift store in the first place. Do I still think about making a story about Lisa Miller in LA? Yeah, and like if I do something set in LA, like I always think about like using Lisa in it somehow. That'd be fun. Some of you guys are asking questions that I cannot answer. Statistical questions. How many references are in each book on average? I don't know. You go through and count them. I didn't point out all the references. There's not that many in the first few books, I think. It kind of gets a little more dense as it goes on. You don't have to ask questions, Spider Venom. It's not required. Everyone can ask questions, but some of the questions are like too broad for me or too specific. You'd love to see me do this for seconds? Yeah, I would like to at some point. I feel like it went okay. I feel like I should have more materials next time that I can show you guys. Is Worst World going to take place in the Scott Pilgrim universe? No. Because it's from a different publisher. So legally, no. I feel like all my books will like kind of have connections in some way, but it's not going to be like a video game universe. That's for me, like the video game thing comes from Scott's point of view. So even if I did a story all about Ramona, like it would not be as video gamey as the Scott Pilgrim story. Just as an example, not that I'm doing that. If there was an animation series, would I want it to have the same art style as the books? Well, if you were here earlier, we watched a bit of that Titmouse Scott Pilgrim versus the animation. I don't know. I don't love that. Like it's my own art. It's super old at this point. And you can see me flipping through and criticizing what I drew back in the day. I think if there was ever an animated series, I would want it to kind of look fresh. Do Knives and her father have innate fighting skills, or do they have some hidden family training backstory going on? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of for you to decide. There's just like, there's references to like what Knives' dad is interested in. He's a Chinese guy with like a Japanese sword collection for some reason. But she thinks that her dad is like a loser. So, I don't know. Any characters I wish were more fleshed out story-wise? I mean, it would have been good to flesh out a lot of them. I do feel like some of the X's like didn't get much time. Even Gideon, like I wish I had had more time to develop the character. But I don't know. It is what it is. Since it was Scott's story, like it was just best to kind of keep to the simple stuff. Is there anything I wish I knew ahead of time before I started making a comic? Not really. Not by the time I did Scott Pilgrim. Like when you start making comics, what you should know ahead of time is that you're gonna suck and it's gonna suck. It's really difficult, and it takes some time to like really get comfortable with the form. Like I did two books before the first Scott Pilgrim, and I feel like the first Scott Pilgrim is like my first like First one where it kind of feels like I know what I'm doing, like it feels confident in a way. So I don't know. That just takes time to get there, and it's hard not to get discouraged before that, because you're drawing and drawing, and you're drawing for hours, and then you look back and you're like, this is terrible. But you kind of have to push through that. Do I feel that both comics and video games influence Scott Pilgrim equally? You feel like people focus on the video game stuff too much? I don't know. I don't think. I mean, Scott Pilgrim was inspired by a lot of manga, like shonen manga. There are a few references to various manga. And yeah, like things like the Frank Miller-esque fight scene and stuff. Um, as the series goes on, it definitely gets more of a video game aspect to it, but not quite as much in this book. When are we gonna get some Scott Pilgrim figures? I don't know. I can't tell you. Could happen. Could happen soon. That would be cool. Is Worst World going to have like fantasy stuff, like the Subspace Highway or the Mushrooms in Seconds? Um. Uh. Yeah. I will. Yeah. Probably. I can't get away from doing stuff like that. I don't find real life that interesting. So Worst World is kind of taking on a more of a sci-fi feeling. But I don't know. I don't want to say too much because it's still, I haven't drawn it yet. It could change a lot. What was my favorite change the movie made? It's too hard to answer. Like when I'm flipping through, I can reminisce about stuff the movie changed, but I mean, the movie changed a lot of stuff for the better. A lot of jokes and stuff. Is my last name hyphenated or is Lee my middle name? Lee is my middle name. O'Malley is my last name. Is there lore behind how Ramona got her purse? Is there? I don't think so. I don't think I ever talked about it. I mean, I don't think I have any concept of it. Um, so yeah, I don't really have an answer. It's implied that it has something to do with subspace. So like maybe it has something to do with Gideon, but then maybe we see her having it already when she meets Gideon. I don't know. I don't remember. But then it also takes on this role as like her baggage, her metaphorical baggage. So maybe she's had it forever. How did I manage planning when creating the series, or did I just go with the flow? Um, well, like I said, I had like a document that was kind of the first three books ish, and just like loose stubs for what would happen after that. And oh shit, is it? Am I dead? Can you see my stream, guys? I don't see it on my end. I'm still live. It's weird. It's maybe my other monitor is just disconnected. Anyway, it's not showing me the questions anymore. Well, yeah, I'm having errors on my end, so maybe this is a good time to call it a day. That was pretty good. Maybe we will do another one soon with volume 3 and see where we go from there. Thank you guys for hanging out. I wish I could do a raid or something because I have so many followers today. Let me see if I can reconnect. Oh, there we go. Now it's working. Cool. More tomorrow? Maybe not tomorrow. Like I said, I don't know if you guys missed this at the very beginning, but I was gonna game today, play Hades, but I like hurt my shoulder and my cat scratched up like my whole midsection. So I've been uncomfortable. I didn't want to see her playing games all day. But I just put some stuff together and did this little presentation, a little PowerPoint for y'all. Let's I don't know, what do you guys are you guys gonna hang out on Twitch? Maybe I'll send you over to Hana. She's playing some music. She's a wild character, friend of mine. Let's see. If you guys like to dance, I'm gonna take us over to Hana. So yeah, show some hype once we get there. Feel free to log the fuck out immediately. I'm not gonna tell you what to watch with your life. But thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll see you next time. I'll do some Hades this week, and we'll do another book maybe next week. Peace out.